guys, I'm very excited about today's video. I really enjoyed doing it last time, so we're doing it again. Today we're gonna read some more scary Reddit stories. Hopefully it actually works this time, because I recorded a video like this like 2 days ago, but I had to just scrap the whole thing because the audio just sounded weird to me, you know? And I might have just been picky about it, but like I couldn't bring myself to post it. Anyway, we're gonna try again. I'm gonna do something differently this time. I'm gonna try to like read and then put that audio on top of footage of me training this horse. So hopefully that works out. I've never tried this before. I don't even know what I'm doing really, but it's okay. Fingers crossed it all works out. So the first story. Do not let your Uber driver cancel your ride while in the car. Sorry, this is a bit long. I know this isn't a therapist office, but this has bothered me for a long time and I wanted to just get it off my chest. This happened June 2018 in Portland, Oregon. I understand I acted like an idiot in this situation. Since then, I have become much more observant, cautious, and honestly, much more paranoid. I went dancing with friends and was really drunk by midnight. Unfortunately, this was back when I had little money, and I realized you could save money by eating very little before going out, and it would take far fewer drinks to get drunk. So, I was so drunk I barely remember my friend ordering me an Uber home. My phone was dead, of course. I can vaguely recall them helping me into the car and telling me to get home safe. I don't remember greeting the driver or the first minute or so. But soon after getting in, he asked me how my night was and if I smoked. Honestly, I was just thinking about bed at this point, so I sort of just slurred out that I did sometimes. He then offered me a joint, and this is the first moment I got sort of nervous and began paying attention. I tell him something like, I'm really tired and just ready to get home. I think he said something about it being an indica-based joint and it made for great sleep. Once again, I say something not exactly like no, but not a yes, which he takes as a yes, I'll take that joint now. Once again, I'm still drunk enough. I can barely see straight or speak clearly, so when he says, okay, well I have to cancel the ride really quick because I can't give it to you while I'm on the clock, or something to that effect, it takes me a second to realize how dangerous that is. And by the time I start to say something, he has cancelled the ride and pulls over. We were in an area just east of the Hawthorne Bridge, I think, and it was totally secluded. Some empty parking lots, a closed auto body shop, no one in sight. It's starting to hit me. I'm now in the car with not an Uber driver, but with some stranger. I can't call anyone and he's trying to give me weed that could have anything in it. For the next minute or so, we're pretty quiet, or I just can't remember any small talk he tried to make because I was beginning to panic. And every time he handed me the joint, I would take fake hits, just breathing it into my mouth and not into my lungs. I felt tired, clumsy, and weak. That kind of drunk where you're almost at the point of nausea, and I knew I couldn't do much of anything to defend myself at that point. I remember vividly being fixated for a moment on the fact that I didn't even have a pair of keys to defend myself with, as my building used fobs for just about everything and I didn't take my mail key with me. As I'm freaking out, I look up to see if this guy is sort of noticing, and I make eye contact with him in the mirror. He was staring at me, but I couldn't read his expression. Finally, he says something along the lines of, well, let's get out of here. I tell him I'll just call another Uber to get home, thinking at this point it might even be safer to walk, and he says, no, I still have your address, I'll just take you home. For a moment I was relieved. I guess I wanted to believe him so badly that I could get home safe. I tried to calm myself down, thinking he hadn't actually done anything threatening. Maybe he was just your typical stoner guy and I'm overreacting. At this time, I lived on PSU campus in downtown Portland in the southwest area of the city. He is driving me north on the east side of the river. There are several bridges to our left, and as he keeps moving north, he has several opportunities to take an exit to hop over the river and get me back downtown. He keeps skipping them. We keep passing bridge after bridge that could get me home. Up in northeast Portland, there are some large industrial areas that can get very isolated at night, and Portland in general is surrounded by lots of forests, so I knew he could have me in a secluded area really quickly. After he passes like the fourth exit for a bridge, I've been racking my brain for a way to make him actually take me home, and I say something to the effect of, hey, my boyfriend is waiting for me at home. Which was true, though I said it in a very meek way. My driver says nothing, but he did take the next exit for a bridge and basically hung a giant U-turn that started taking me home. Even as we're on the west side of town heading south, I'm still shaking and have my hand on the door handle. thinking about just hopping out at a red light the closer we get to my apartment. My phone is completely dead and he honestly still has several chances to hop onto a nearby highway and speed out of the city. We're getting pretty close to my apartment now, and I'm once again trying to convince myself I'm being paranoid about some stoner that can't navigate the city, although a few minutes before I was so scared I was crying. So once we get about 2 blocks from my apartment, I lie and tell him it's easiest to stop here and he can let me out. Again, he doesn't say anything but does slow the car. I'm flooded with relief and even feel myself smile, but when I go to open the door, it's locked. I try to lift the lock mechanism manually, but it won't budge. I look up at him instinctually to see what's up, and he's got his head turned almost fully toward me, shoulders still facing the road, smiling at me. The worst fucking smile I've ever seen. It looked so mocking and it just did not reach his eyes at all. I just started crying and asking him to open the door. I was so freaked out and still very drunk, and thank God he did. I will never forget the sensation of vulnerability, not just being drunk in his car with no way to contact anyone, but even as I got out of the car, I kept feeling like he would somehow grab the back of my shirt and pull me back in, as silly as that sounds. When I got home, I found out my boyfriend had actually gone out with friends last minute and wasn't even home. He wouldn't even have known till much later if I hadn't gotten back safe. The next day I convinced myself I was freaking out over nothing, which I realized still could be the case, but in my gut I had truly felt in danger the night before. Technically this guy could be completely harmless, but I still think I should have texted my friend and had her report him. The big thing that made me think of this was recently hearing about how Ed Kemper would go for practice runs, picking up hitchhikers and seeing if he could get the passengers, potential victims, to trust him or how far out of his comfort zone he could push them without them saying anything. Obviously this guy wasn't Ed Kemper, but I hate wondering if that night was a practice run of sorts for my Uber driver. Thanks to whoever reads this whole thing through. I'm at a point in my life where I'm realizing how much danger I put myself in when I was younger, just depressed as hell, and it has made me both surprised and deeply grateful I'm still here. Okay, listen guys. I've said this before and I will say it again. I will say it till the day I die. Listen to your gut, okay? Like, I don't understand why people wouldn't want to be rather safe than sorry. Like, I get being in an uncomfortable situation like this where you're already in the car and you're drunk and you don't know how to get out of it. And it's like, this guy did let her out, but what if he hadn't? Like, it's horrible to think about. I'm just glad this woman is okay. This next one is a shorter one. Parents, if a child tells you someone is off, believe them. It could save your life. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, my brother had a friend from school come over for dinner along with his mother and her boyfriend. I don't remember much about the boyfriend except that I didn't like him. He wanted to play airplane with me, you know, where the adult lays on their back with their feet in the air and the kid lays on their feet and acts like they're flying. He did it in front of everyone. He never tried to get me alone, but I didn't like it. I told my parents I didn't like him, and if I recall correctly, I believe they didn't really care for him either. Needless to say, he never came to our house again. Not long after that, my brother's friend's mom went missing and was later found dead. Turns out he killed her. I have never gotten over it, and the fact that even as a young child, something about that man rubbed me wrong. It still freaks me out to this day. Listen to your gut. There is a reason you get that feeling about a person or a place. This is exactly what I'm saying. How freaky is that? You had a man in your house and you didn't like him, but you, like, obviously at that point he hadn't done anything, but you just got that vibe. And then not long after, he kills somebody? This is why I'm saying listen to your gut. Even if your gut's wrong, even if you're being overdramatic about something, just be careful. Rather safe than sorry. People are crazy, okay? Let's just not trust anybody. I think that's the way to go. Next story. Something bad happened while I was camping. I'm just not sure what. I'm not sure if I'm in the right place, but I've held this story in for the last 6 years because it sounds crazy and I got told not to talk about it. I went camping 6 years ago with a now ex-boyfriend of mine. The campsite we picked was beautiful. We were able to drive in through some rough trails. The spot we picked was next to some hiking trails that weren't very far from some natural hot springs and a huge waterfall. We were in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely no one was around. We set up camp next to the car, went hiking, soaked in the hot springs, came back and had dinner. It was all very normal until we woke up the next day. I need to give some context as to how we slept that night so you can understand my confusion. Before we went to sleep, I put our food cooler and the stereo that we brought in the car and locked it. I put the keys in the front pocket of my backpack and put the backpack next to my sleeping bag on the far side of the tent away from the door of the tent. My boyfriend at the time slept nearest the door of the tent with a gun next to him. We woke up the next morning and I felt fine. I had slept hard and from inside the tent, everything seemed normal. When we got out, our campsite was absolute chaos. The fire pit we had made was ruined. The cooler had been thrown and food was scattered all over the place. The stereo was smashed to pieces laying next to a tree. All of the car doors were open, including the trunk. We stood there for a few minutes in silence, just taking everything in. The woods felt off now. It was quiet and not the beautiful campsite that I saw yesterday. Everything about those woods felt wrong. My ex accused me of not locking the car the night before and that an animal got into our stuff. I promised that I had locked it and went into the tent to grab the keys from my backpack, but they weren't there. I found them later on the ground right next to the car. We quickly threw everything in the trunk and left. My boyfriend was quiet and wouldn't talk to me about what had just happened. He finally spoke up and we were almost home and told me that he had had a dream the night before about something kneeling over him in the tent holding his gun and just staring at him. When I tried to ask him more questions, he got quiet again and said he didn't want to talk about it and that I shouldn't talk about it anymore either. I've tried to forget about it, but I just can't. Something really wrong happened to us in the woods that night. Okay, listen. This is scary to me for multiple reasons. I'm a big advocate for paranormal stuff. 100% I believe in that stuff. If you don't, that's fine. If this was the doing of a ghost, right? That's creepy in itself. But people will always be the scariest thing out there for me. And the creepy part about this being a person is the fact that, like, they didn't steal anything. That's weird. Like, because what other motive do you have? For what reason would you go into the tent to grab said car keys that this girl put in her backpack, unlock the car, open all the doors, including the trunk, take everything out, trash everything, and then go back into the tent, lean over the boyfriend with the boyfriend's gun, and then just put it back down and leave? Like, what psycho person would do that, you know? Like, you have to actually be psycho. Like, it wouldn't be as creepy if something was stolen, you know? Like, sure, it's still not, like, it's still creepy to have somebody invade your personal space like that, but the fact that nothing was even stolen is so weird to me, because, like, that's a deranged individual then. People will always be the scariest thing out there. That's all I'm gonna say. And then we have another fairly short one. I always wonder what they were planning for me. I was around 13 years old and at the shopping center with my parents. I wanted to go off on my own and wander around by myself for a while, and my parents agreed. After a little while, I was stopped by a woman in casual clothes. She told me that she was an undercover cop and I was suspected of shoplifting. Because I was young, I was terrified. I didn't ask for her ID or anything like that. I didn't know I could question authority. She asked to look through my bag and I let her, insisting I hadn't stolen anything. She asked me how old I was, who I was there with. Then she asked me something that still sends chills down my spine. Are your parents expecting you to go home with them tonight? I told her, of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? She then insisted I had to follow her to go and figure out the shoplifting thing. I went. She was leading me towards the exit. By the grace of God, before we got there, we bumped into my dad. He asked what was going on and I told him. As I was explaining the situation, the woman got on her phone and was talking to someone, saying things like, "Oh, this isn't the right girl," then hangs up and says, "Sorry, wrong person," and abruptly walks off. My dad and I stood there dumbfounded. When my mom found out about the situation, she was really unimpressed by how the undercover cop handled the situation. She took me to the center management the next day and complained to them about how I was treated by their undercover cop. When the woman answers, "We don't employ undercover cops in this center." I have no idea what that woman had planned for me, but I thank my lucky stars every day that we ran into my dad. Again, people, be scared of people. Like, it's insane. like, for sure, this woman was trying to kidnap this child. Like, what else? Literally, what else could it be, right? And like the fact that this happened in a mall in broad daylight. This child was almost kidnapped in broad daylight in a shopping mall. Like, I cannot say this enough. Just be scared of people. Rather safe than sorry. Now to the last story. I didn't order pizza. This happened quite a while ago when I was home alone with just my dog. After all this time, I'm sure what happened was really strange and I have no idea what this man actually wanted. So, I was watching TV one night at about 11 p.m. when I heard a car pull up outside and the engine shut off. I figured it was obviously a neighbor, but Nosy Dog wanted to have a look and went to the window. He kind of messed up the blinds when he went to look, so I got up to fix them. When I did, I noticed a car parked on the street across from my house and my neighbor's house. I couldn't really make out any details, but it looked like the driver was still sitting in the car. I didn't really think anything of it. I got a drink and went back to watching TV. Quite a while had passed since I fixed the blinds, but I'm not sure how long. I'd guess 15 to 20 minutes. Out of nowhere, I thought I heard a tapping at the door. Not a knock, it was much lighter and very quiet. My dog had sat up to look at the door and I paused the TV when the same tapping then started on the window. I opened the blinds a little and saw a man standing there. I couldn't make out his face properly and he immediately walked back to the door and started tapping at it again. This doesn't sound very frightening and I'm not sure why, but I suddenly had a really awful feeling. I felt absolutely terrified and had no idea why. The tapping at the door never stopped, but something in my head was saying if I opened the door to him, then something really bad would happen. I went upstairs to open a window to ask what he wanted. It felt safer doing this. He said in a really quiet voice that he was delivering pizza and told me how much it cost. I felt so stupid for being frightened and told him I didn't order pizza. I guessed he was speaking quietly and knocking lightly so he didn't disturb my neighbors. My dog had followed me upstairs and was letting out the odd growl and bark, which isn't really unusual for him. I was trying to shush him when the man downstairs told me he had the correct address and I better get downstairs now and open the door to pay what I owed and collect my food before it got cold. I was really confused because I most definitely didn't order any food and began telling him that again when I noticed he didn't have a pizza. He wasn't carrying anything at all. I told him again that he had the wrong address and he got really angry. He kept telling me to open the door. He was going between angry and sort of trying to persuade me to go back downstairs. I asked him where the pizza was. He said he had a hold of it. It was really dark, but he definitely didn't have anything in his hands. My dog was really making quite a bit of fuss at this point, and the stranger had turned into a broken record. Come downstairs, open the door. Come downstairs and open the door. All the noise must have alerted my neighbor who did open his front door. And the man didn't say a word, but practically ran across the street to the car that I had heard pull up a while ago. He went back to the car empty-handed. I have no idea what he wanted, but he certainly wasn't a delivery driver. It really freaked me out as well that my dog is quite obviously a large breed, and the man saw him through the window, but he wasn't deterred at all. It seems even stranger and less random that he actually drove to my house as though he'd planned on showing up. Ooh. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. That actually gives me the chills. Because, like, what do you do? Realistically, if your neighbor hadn't heard the commotion and opened his door, who's to say this guy would have given up? You know? Because then what do? Then you're just stuck in your house with a creepy man trying to get into your house. Like... To be fair, she had a big dog, okay? If he had gotten in, fingers crossed, that dog would have been useful. But still, like, God bless the neighbor for checking out what was going on. Thank God I live in a small, irrelevant city in Norway. I feel relatively safe here. But yeah, always, 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 always be careful. Rather safe than sorry, guys. Listen to your gut. That's the quote of the day. Listen to your gut. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments what type of like Reddit stories you want to hear me read next. Whether it be more of these like creepy like human interactions or paranormal or, you know, like drama things, you guys let me know. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.